honor and pleasure to welcome you to this really important ceremony today on such a fabulous day. I'd like to acknowledge our elected officials that are here with us today. We are joined by Mayor Marty Walsh, State Senator Sonia Chang-Diaz, City Councilor Kim Janey, and City Councilor Althea Garrison. Terrific. We're also joined by Kate Bennett, Acting Administrator of the Boston Housing Authority. She's a hometown hero. And Sheila Dillon, Chief of Housing. Sheila's here today. So today is a great day in the city of Boston, a great day for Roxbury and our community. We celebrate 76 beautiful new affordable homes for families here at Melnea Apartments. It completes the last phase of Madison Park Village, a housing community started 5 decades ago, and that's been renovated and preserved as affordable housing for decades to go. And it's affordable to families at all income levels. In total, the village now provides 622 homes for families. We equally embrace all of the residents that are here today and from the nearby surrounding communities that Madison Park owns. And today really is a celebration and opportunity to welcome our new residents to this vibrant community. Madison Park has been an anchor institution in Roxbury for over 50 years, since 1966. While building and maintaining affordable housing has been and continues to be a major part of our mission, we really take a holistic approach to community development, including offering arts and cultural programming at Hibernian Hall, voter engagement through the Roxbury Coalition, a violence prevention and trauma response effort. This year, over 150 youth had access to summer and after-school jobs through our youth leadership and workforce development program. Our health equity and wellness efforts train health peer leaders and work with neighbors as we target the social determinants of health. We've been able to provide direct services to our seniors through a partnership with Boston Medical Center this year. We're training and nurturing resident leaders so that they can advocate for change. We own commercial property here in Dudley Square, recognizing that the success of our commercial district is critical to the thousands of residents who live within walking distance of Dudley Square. And with partners like Tropical Foods, Daily Table, and Haley House, we're helping to provide access to healthy, affordable food and improving health outcomes in this community. This project could not have happened without the support of our government leaders and financial partners that you'll hear from today. The development team also deserves special recognition for its hard work. I wish I could thank all the people and organizations and professionals whose work made today possible. I'll just call out our architect, general contractor, and owner's representative for these 2 buildings. The buildings were designed by Elton Hampton Architects. Nick Elton is here somewhere, and his team. Construction, so Nick really understood how important it was for this building to be the first residential address on Melnea Cass Boulevard, right? Changing what was a highway, meant to be a highway, into a residential street that's part of a neighborhood. And he did a fabulous job doing that. Our contractor, Delbert JKS, finished the building on schedule and on budget. Construction services consultation, Nat Haley and Michael were our owner's representative. Nat Haley in the hat. He's got a hard hat with a hat like that too. Nat's been with us throughout all the various phases of Madison Park Village, and part of the reason why this place looks so great. So please give our architect, the contractor, owner's rep another round of applause. I'd also like to thank the Madison Park staff who played a key role, and specifically our former real estate director, Russ Tanner. And former project manager, Sophia Transtamar. And of course I have to thank Ben, who's picked up all the work from them. So Ben Baldwin. I'd like to thank the staff at Wynn Residential, particularly Sherelle Daniels and Sherelle and her team processed over 4,000 applicants for the affordable units here. This project is part of a $30 million Whittier Choice Neighborhood Initiative, and there are 33 residents here at Melnea Apartments who came from Whittier Street. They were supported with relocation and other services by the Boston Housing Authority, Housing Opportunities Unlimited, and Empath. You'll hear from one of those residents, Stephanie Thomas, a little later. Our development partner, POA, is here today, and we look forward to celebrating with them at the upcoming completion of the first phase of the Whittier Street on-site housing. So now let me introduce our next speaker. It's an honor to introduce our next speaker, City of Boston Mayor Marty Walsh. Our mayor has been a great friend to my organization and to all the Boston CDCs. Mayor Walsh is a champion for affordable housing and economic development throughout the city's neighborhoods and has encouraged and led a regional approach to our housing crisis, working with other mayors and town officials in the Boston metropolitan area. Today in Boston, we have more local resources devoted to affordable housing than ever before. This is due to changes in the city's inclusionary development program and new dedicated revenue from the Community Preservation Act. Mayor Walsh voiced his support, and we worked in partnership with his administration to encourage voters to pass the CPA, the Community Preservation Act, on the November 2016 ballot. And those funds have been flowing and doing great things in the city for affordable housing, parks, and open space. That's $20 million a year that we didn't have when we first put together that first housing plan. Marty's been a great friend of Madison Park, not only by supporting housing development, but also our public safety work. Madison Park hosts one of several neighborhood trauma response teams that coordinates an immediate response to an incident and sustained recovery and healing for those affected by violence. He maintains a keen focus on social and economic resilience in a city affected by historic and persistent divisions of race and class. It's great to have him with us today. Please join me in a warm welcome for Mayor Marty Walsh.
Thank you very much, Jean, and everyone at Madison Park for the amazing work you do. Today is a celebration, and we should be, hold on. Is that better? Let me test. Test 1, 2, 3. Is it working? All right. Let me start that over again. I want to thank Jean Panado for her great work and everyone at Madison Park. I mean, honestly, you guys are amazing. What you're doing here in the city of Boston, thank you. To the elected officials that are here, to Councilor Garrison and Councilor Janey for your advocacy, Kim, her advocacy, and we're in her district today. I want to thank you for that. To Senator Sonia Chang-Diaz, I want to thank her on housing, but I just want to take 1 second to thank her on a piece of legislation that we got through the legislature, both in the House and the Senate, which is dealing with additional funds for education in our city. The bill's worth $100 million to the city of Boston. Her advocacy, her pushing, her fighting, her protesting, everything she's done, and it's all positive. What I mean by that, I want to thank her for it. We just talked briefly. The House did the bill the other day, and the final version will be a great version because a lot of what was in the Senate is in the House. There's some issues they have to work out, but it's going to help our kids. And so, Senator, thank you for that. We should give her a round of applause. It's amazing what she did, what she did. To all the other folks here today, they will mention Crystal, Janelle, Sheila, thank you. To Kate Bennett, the Boston Housing Authority, thank you. There's a man that's not here with us today, but he's here with us in spirit. and his name is Billy McGonigal. And Billy McGonigal fought tooth and nail to make sure that we got the award from the federal government. And I have to tell you a funny story. So we were breaking ground at Whittier Street, and we were doing a ceremonial groundbreaking. I think it was Councilor Janey's first official event, well, one of the first ones as a city councilor, and we had gotten an award out the door from the Obama administration that $30 million is coming to Boston. So I was going to the event and I was thinking to myself, well, we have a new person in the White House right now, and there's a good chance that that person will probably not give us a check. So I whispered to Billy when I got to the front of the room, I'm like, are we okay with the money? He goes, we got the check December 30th and we deposited it. So thank you, Billy McGonigal, for doing that. You know, we deposited just to make sure it was there. But I want to thank Kate and Billy for their incredible work. As you know, we're celebrating new homes here today. The residents of Roxbury, thank you. The residents of Whittier Street Development, thank you. People who experience homelessness, people with low income, people with moderate income, thank you for continuing to work with us and to push us all to make sure we continue more housing here in the city of Boston. We have good people in our neighborhoods and our community. Many of you are here today. We can also see what it takes to create affordable homes here in the city of Boston. It takes commitments to our values. It takes dedicated advocates and residents. It takes partnerships to create a $39 million project with the federal government, state government, city government, nonprofits, and we need to continue to work together on this stuff. I know that politics right now is very divisive. There's a lot of finger pointing and going back and forth, but when we work together, there's an opportunity for us to do some amazing things. And we have to continue. We can have disagreements on a lot of different things, but when it comes to the core values of who we are as a city and creating opportunities for economic development, creating opportunities for housing, making sure that we get good education money and spending and how we spend that money is key to moving us forward. In the city, we've created over 6,000 units of affordable housing since we started our housing plan in 2014. But as anyone in this neighborhood can tell you, we still have a long way to go, and the need is great. And I was talking about the other day, I was asked a question about the Boston Planning and Development Agency, about abolishing the Boston Planning and Development Agency. And I said, that's the worst thing we could do right now. Because what we're doing in the Development Agency is planning the future of the city. What hasn't happened in the past, we weren't planning. So as the growth happened in the city of Boston, we weren't prepared for the increase of people. We weren't prepared for the increase in transportation. And now we're working to make sure that as we think about developments, as we think about moving forward, we need to make sure that the core values around those developments are there. We need to make sure if a development happens in the city of Boston, there has to be housing that goes with those jobs. If there's jobs, transportation has to go with those jobs and that housing. And we have to make sure education, schools have to go with all of that. So that's what we have to continue to do in the city of Boston if we move forward here. The development shows there's no single solution. And all of us need to continue to work collectively together, whether it's private or public, community or nonprofit. Planners are activists, everyone. There are activists here. I want to thank you for your activism. Because if you weren't out there fighting for people, a lot of times this doesn't happen. I want to thank you for the pushing you do. And sometimes seems like we're on different sides, but we're not. We're on the same side. It's how do we get to that point? We need to continue to work together. The one thing that we can't do is stop pushing for more. A lot of people say to me, let's hit the pause button, let's stop building homes in Boston until we have a new process. That's not how it works. If we stop building homes in the city of Boston right now, the challenges of people in our communities, particularly our poorer people, will continue to get pushed out. We can't afford that. That's what's happened in the past. The reason why we're in the housing crisis we're in is because people with means come into the city of Boston, they come into our neighborhoods, they buy our one families, our two families, our three families, and what happens is the families that live in those housing units pay rent of $600 or $700. Now it's $2,000 and $3,000, and it gets pushed up. And we can't do that. We have to double down. That's what this development here shows today. The funds can't sit and wait, and the funds don't sit and wait. If we decide not to build anything else, all of the money that we're getting in inclusionary development, the money from the state and the money from the federal government, that's not going to sit in a pot and wait for Boston, Massachusetts. That money's going to go to another city in America that wants to build. And they're going to be building affordable housing on our money. And we're not going to let that happen here in the city of Boston. These partnerships don't stay strong if we don't use them. We need to continue to advocate for our communities. We fought to get federal grants for Whittier Street. The people know this. Stephanie knows this as good as anybody. We didn't get the first round. Jean was sitting at the table. We brought all the advocates in. Sonia was there. We brought all the advocates in, and we sat down. We put a great proposal in front of them. And when the awards came out, we didn't get those awards. And we were disappointed. But no one in Whittier Street said, well, we're going to stop. The next round of applicants that came out, which came out right a few months later, we sat down again with HUD, and we said, we need money. And what happened? We got a $30 million grant. Inclusionary development. When I became the mayor, it was 13%, and people said, well, you can't tax business. And what do? The advocacy community and the real estate community came around the table, and we sat down and we said, okay, we're going to raise inclusionary development to 18%. It's not going to put you out of business. It hasn't. People are still building. And we have hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to inclusionary development right now into projects like this that make projects happen, and not just this project, but projects all across the city of Boston. We need to continue to fight moving forward. We fought with our state partners together to get a housing bond bill in the governor's office. And what did we get? We got the largest housing bond bill in the history of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And in that housing bond bill, there's many projects for the city of Boston, and we're going to work with our delegation from the Boston delegation to make sure that as the governor allocates these funds, we get allocated here in the city of Boston. We need to continue to move together and push together and fight together as a community to make that happen. In Roxbury, we fought to make sure that land that we have in the city of Boston, vacant land, we turn into affordable housing. And to make sure that developers from this community and community around here can access that land. And we're able to move forward, and we're going to be moving forward on housing plans to build more affordable housing here in this neighborhood and blocks away from where I stand today. We have to keep working together. We have to keep working with each other and not against each other. Let's not turn into Washington, D.C. Let's not turn into where we're picking sides on which side we're in, if we want to continue to move forward. What people in this community needs is not more politics and more roadblocks. People in this community need more affordable housing. That's what people need. Wherever I am, I was at Hibernian Hall right before this, and we had a couple hundred people in the room. And the number one issue that people told me about was affordable housing. I was talking to seniors that live in homes that talk about every year their rent goes up 5%. 5% might not seem like a big number because it's not 100%, but 5% represents $100 to a senior citizen. $100 is devastating to a person on a fixed income, and we need to continue to move forward. All of you here have created this in this special project, and that's what we're going to keep creating on Whittier Street as we see the development being built, in Dudley Square, in Mattapan, in Dorchester, and all across our city. The results of all of our advocacy and your advocacy, and it's not up to us elected officials, it's up to you, the community. It's making sure we have a more stable community, making sure we can keep our communities multicultural, of all ages and backgrounds, making sure that we have good, strong schools in every neighborhood in the city of Boston and that people live next to schools. We need to make sure that people have opportunities for transit and taking the train, whether it's to work or to school, and making sure people go to their doctor's appointment. It's making sure that there's stores, and good stores here, and good food, healthy food in our neighborhood so people can access good, healthy food. It's what Boston's going to look like and should continue to look like. And it's what Boston's going to continue to look like as we continue to move forward. So I want to thank you all for being here today. I also want to thank City Council Michael Flaherty, who joined us today as well for this exciting day. And lastly, to Madison Park, thank you. Thank you for what you do every single day, whether it's building affordable housing or keeping our young people safe down the street here. Thank you for everything you do.
That was wonderful. So I met our next speaker, Janelle Chan, when she was running the Asian CDC, one of our sister CDCs in Chinatown, where she was not shy at sort of reaching out for advice. And I admired how much she managed some very complex public-private partnerships with developers in Chinatown. But since then, Janelle joined the Baker administration in 2016 as the Chief of Real Estate for the Mass Bay Transit Authority. And in that role, she managed real estate and asset development in line with an initiative that allows for transit-oriented development on MBTA land. As you know, the MBTA is one of the largest landowners in the state. In April of this year, Janelle was named Undersecretary of Housing by Governor Baker. Her agency, the Department of Housing and Community Development, provided $3 million in funding for this project, and the state awarded credits, sort of the state credits and the federal low-income tax credits generated $16.8 million in equity. And their sister agency, Mass Works, also provided a $725,000 Mass Works award. So state did fabulous things for this project, and please welcome Janelle Chan to the podium.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you to Mayor Walsh for your leadership and your passion. You've assembled a wonderful team in Kate Bennett and in Sheila Dillon, and it's been a pleasure to work with them to get down and roll up our sleeves and make these projects work, because they're difficult. So today it's a wonderful Saturday, and I have I'm lucky enough to be able to bring my family here today. I have my 7-month-old over there with my mom from California, and I brought them because I know that this project, Melnea Apartments, it's not just about bricks and mortars. It's about family, it's about community, it's about community engagement. And as Boston residents, we want to celebrate with you. We want to support you, and we want to continue to be in partnership, and together we can build a wonderful Boston as well as a welcoming Massachusetts. The partnership between BHA, POA, and Madison Park to transform Whittier Street housing is a model for community engagement. And our public housing is a tremendous asset in Massachusetts. It's a tremendous asset for all the families, elders, as well as those individuals who have low income. Here in Massachusetts, we're one of the few states that has both federal and state public housing. 80,000 units or homes for families and seniors. Half of that, more than half of that, is state-sponsored. And last year, Governor Baker signed the largest housing bond bill with the support of our friends in the legislature. Thank you, Senator Chang-Diaz. And in that bill, we had $650 million for the preservation of state-aided public housing. We're working together to roll out new projects, new pilots, to think about how can we look at our land, look at them and make them real assets for our Commonwealth. We're working with Somerville as well as Chelsea to not only revitalize those public housing developments, but add new housing to it to help us address the issue of that we need more. We need more housing that's accessible to a lot of different individuals across our Commonwealth. So I'm going to keep this short. We have wonderful resources throughout. We're lucky in Massachusetts in our ecosystem of affordable housing. We're one of few to have state low-income housing tax credits, and we put it all together and try to make it work. But that's not enough, you see. So I want to thank Mayor Walsh, his support for our housing choice legislation. This legislation doesn't apply to Boston. We know that. But guess what? Its impact is in Boston, you see, because housing and housing production is a group and team effort. We need all of the surrounding cities and towns around here to do the right thing, right? So let me explain it to you simply. In most elections, you vote for somebody, you vote for legislation, and it's just 51% and something passes, right? Why is housing any different? So in Massachusetts, we as a state require cities and towns to vote 2/3 majority to pass good legislation, good zoning, good projects like this to go forward. We require a higher threshold for good projects like this that we need so much of. That just doesn't make sense. The put simply, we need to change that. And now this is not an end-all be-all. This is a foundational step forward to help us increase housing production throughout Massachusetts. And so that is why we are talking about housing choice. And really, me, Secretary Keneally, and the governor has been going across the Commonwealth to get folks to vote with their values, to call their legislators, right? We need more housing, and we need it now. So please, help us. Let's work together and get this thing passed right now, because we can't wait any longer. So in closing, I want to congratulate Madison Park. I want to congratulate the residents, as well as my neighbors in Roxbury, for this wonderful, wonderful milestone that you've come across, and thank you.
I don't see our next speaker, so we're going to introduce Stephanie Thomas. Stephanie, we actually have been partners in crime for a long time, haven't we, Stephanie? She's a former resident of Whittier Street, and now a resident of Melnea Apartments, not this building, but the 40 Rainer Circle building. She's been a resident leader throughout the whole planning process, through the whole Whittier transformation plan. We all were sad the first time that our proposal to HUD was not awarded, but we sort of, like, as the mayor said, we rolled up our sleeves and got back at it. Steffi's been really a key to sort of engaging the residents and leading them. I know she stepped down because she's worked so hard for so many years, and she can't wait to show me her apartment today. So please, I'm sure her new place is as fun and colorful as her personality. Please join me in welcoming Stephanie Thomas to make some noise.
I'd like everybody, before I speak, I'd like everybody to bow in silence in remembrance of Bill McGonigal. Let's just bow our head for a minute of silence in remembrance of him. I'd like to thank, excuse me, I'd like to thank God for waking us all up this morning. He brought us out here to celebrate the Melnea Cast Apartments. I've been a resident of Whittier since 1954. I'm 68 years old now, and I've been in that development for over 64 years. But I was truly blessed to be placed into a two-bedroom townhouse on 40 Rainer Circle. Truly blessed. I'm happy. I love the love. I feel the love. I love children. I love the seniors. I love people, period. You know, this atmosphere today is so beautiful. It's so calm. There's so much serenity around. There's a lot of love. I might be short of words because my heart is grieving from Bill. I know he'd be sitting right beside you, Mayor. He'd be right beside you, and I'd be beside him. But I just want to let you all know that I thank you all very much for coming out here to join us and celebrate a job well done. Jean Panada, thank you very much for having me to speak. Kate, thank you very much for having me to speak. I don't know a lot of you, but you all probably know me. You all probably know me by me talking a lot, I know. But I'm not going to stand up here too long. I'm grieving and I'm happy. I'm celebrating life here, but I'm also missing my man. I'm missing my man, Bill. But if the family is out there or people that know him, let them know that our hearts are out to him. He done a tremendous job helping us over at Whittier. He was like a father to me. Anything I needed, anything I wanted, he gave it to me, regardless of what it was. And they were going to place me in some place to live temporarily, and this two-bedroom apartment on Tremont Street came up, and they had to have a lot of work done. And he said, Stephanie, I promise you that I'll have it fixed from top to bottom. So I love him for that. I love him for my seniors. I love him for Gene. I love him for everybody at Melnea Cast Apartments. His spirit will never, never die. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's great to have the residents speak. I feel like that's like the most important voice at these events. So let me introduce some of our elected officials that are here. And in order to develop affordable housing, we count on public resources. And our next speaker, Sonia Chang-Diaz, is no stranger to Madison Park ribbon cuttings. She's in her 5th term representing the 2nd Suffolk District, and certainly a proponent of affordable housing, education, civil rights, many of the social causes that we care about. She's a terrific friend and partner, so please give Sonia Chang-Diaz a warm welcome.
Give it up for Jean, everybody. I know she's getting a lot of applause, and man, has she earned it. And this year is a year of transition for Madison Park, but in the 10 years that I've been serving the 2nd Suffolk District, it's been really a privilege for me to be schooled by Jean in the art of community development. So I also really want to thank Ms. Thomas for bringing Bill into the space with us. This is a celebratory day, but it is, you know, appropriate that we should have a little bit of sadness, a little bit of bitter with our sweet today, and remembering him. And you know, it calls to mind for me also the sort of the mixed emotions with which I think we always do these ribbon cuttings. It is a very joyful accomplishment to see something really, you know, brought into brick and mortar, you know, flesh and blood people who are going to live in these homes, elders, young ones that are going to continue to build up this community. But then we also have to remember the very stark numbers that these ribbon cuttings also make plain. That we had, I think, Jean, you said it was 4,000 applicants for these 76 units. You know, that's more than 40 families per unit, right? Trying to get in here, trying to stay in neighborhoods that they and their people and their families have built up over generations. And so I'm mindful that as we cut this ribbon, and as we celebrate the 76 families that we're serving here, and as we express the gratitude rightfully for all of the hands that have had to come around this development, whether it's city, state, local, government, private individuals, activists who have pushed government to do the right thing here, private partners, whether it's tax credit investors or architects who have made this all possible. But that we all have a role here to carry forward to make sure that every time we walk in this building and feel joyful and excited and thankful about it, that we think about the 4,000 some or the 3,000 some families who didn't get it in the lottery, and that we continue the fight for them. And I want you to know, I'm just curious actually, how many people are not here professionally? How many residents, whether it's of this development or of Greater Roxbury, are here today? I want to tell you, you guys are such an important ingredient to victory, to ongoing victory, right? For those 3,000 some families that we didn't get here today, that we need to keep fighting for. And I want to just implore you and urge you and thank you in advance for continuing to stay in the fight, because Mayor Walsh mentioned at the beginning of the program, and I thank him, it was so kind of him to do that, mentioned the education bill that I've been fighting for 5 years and that we're so close to getting onto the governor's desk. And I know from experience on that bill, on criminal justice reform before it, that nothing of scale and importance like that happens without people rising up and pushing us in government to do it, to do the right thing, to go further than we thought we could go. And so we need you to stay in this fight so that we can get those zoning reform bills passed, to make sure that other municipalities around the state are doing their share of building developments like this, so that not all the demand is coming in on Boston. Keep pushing us to get education policy right, so that when we have families staying in Roxbury, that we have schools that are equal to what they deserve and what they need. Keep pushing us to get the transit policy right, so that we're building streets that are for people and for residents, and not just for cars zooming by, but also so that you have access to the transit systems that you need to get to school, to work, to the doctor's appointments. We need you to stay in this fight with us, so that we can make sure that we're serving all 4,000 of those families who applied in this to be in these apartments today. But also, we've got to celebrate every victory. We've got to celebrate every brick. We've got to celebrate every ribbon cutting, because if we don't have those joyful moments along the way, we're not going to be able to nurture ourselves to stay in the fight for the next development and the next development. So thank you so much. Let's make it a great celebration and keep on fighting tomorrow.
Our next speaker is Boston City Councilor Kim Janey. Kim is a lifelong Roxbury resident, citywide leader that brings strong economic development background to her job as a city councilor. She's tireless. I know that because I've run into her knocking doors at Madison Park Village lots of times. She's been a strong advocate for local businesses and understands the importance of affordable and mixed income housing projects like this in her district. So let's welcome City Councilor Kim Janey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here this afternoon celebrating my very first ribbon cutting when I became a Boston City Councilor was at Madison Park Development Corp, and it was for the building on Washington Street. So it is great to be here now 22 months in to my first term to celebrate this important project in our community. You've heard the numbers, 4,000 applicants for 76 apartments. 4,000. We are in the midst of a housing crisis, but it is because of developments like this in Madison Park and all of our state partners, as well as our mayor, who have helped make sure that we are doing something about our housing crisis. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to celebrate today. This is amazing. And when I was a little girl growing up right here in this community, I remember the fight around the highway. There was a movement, Stop I-95. And we were able to stop, well, the adults in my life, I was a very tiny little girl, but the adults in our community were able to stop that. But what happened is our community was still devastated. Houses used to be right here. And we've had nothing for a long time, but because of Madison Park, what we have here is truly a village. It is truly a village. When we can take residents who were displaced out of Whittier and bring them here, when we can offer affordable housing for so many people in our city who are looking for housing, particularly residents of Roxbury. Roxbury has experienced the greatest increase when it comes to the housing costs in our city. Over a 5-year period, we saw housing costs in Roxbury increase up to 70%. It's huge. That is huge. That's a huge increase, and we can't afford it. We cannot afford it. So we need projects like this that will offer affordable housing for the residents of this community so that they can stay in place. This is so, so important. And I am just blessed for the opportunity to celebrate this wonderful fall day. Certainly, any of you could be anywhere else, and you've chosen to be here. I could certainly be on doors. My election's in 10 days. But I knew to be here because it is not about election cycles. It is about the people of our community, and it is about us staying together in these important fights. It is hard to make sure that we get the resources we need from the feds and the state and from the city to all come together to ensure that we have housing that our community needs. And we can't do it without the residents of this community. So I am just very grateful. I want to thank you, Jean, for your leadership over the last several years, leading Madison Park, your entire team, your board. I want to thank my partners in government at the state, my senator, the mayor, my colleagues on the council who are here. I want to thank all of the residents who makes these projects possible. It is because of you that we're able to do this. So I won't speak long. I'm smelling the food from this food truck. I think the ice cream truck has come. I know we all want to continue our celebration. I just want to ask that you continue in this push. This is not enough. We've got 76 great, beautiful units here, but we've got a lot more work to do. So thank you so much for your work, your leadership, and for everything that you're doing to make our community strong and vibrant. This is truly a village. Thank you so much.
All right. So in closing, let me thank my staff. There are a lot of people that put this together. Some have volunteered to be your tours this afternoon, involved in logistics, marketing, outreach. And can I get you to stand? If you're Madison Park staff, can you just stand and wave your hand? Or board members, we've got some board members here too. All right, thank you. I got the best staff. I have to brag about that every now and then. So on a personal note, many of you know this is my last Madison Park ribbon cutting. Back in March, I announced that I would step down in my role as CEO at the end of this year. It's been 21 amazing years. I'm so proud of all that's been accomplished really together with all of you. I don't like to take the credit for things at the CEO. People like to give me the credit, but it really is a team effort. And it's the staff, the community leaders, our public officials, and our public leaders. I've had the rare opportunity to grow this organization and set it on a path for future success. This week, the board announced my successor, and so I want her to come up, Leslie Reed. Leslie has been serving as our Vice President of Programs for the past year, and she will become the next CEO in November. It's our big public announcement. And I'll serve in an advisory role through the end of the year. So on next Friday, this Friday, we have our annual fundraiser, Sparks for Arts. It's an annual gala, so come out and celebrate Leslie. Tickets are free to Madison Park residents. There'll be great food, music, awards to Community Catalyst. We're going to do the ribbon cutting as soon as this program ends. So speakers are going to line up here and cut a ribbon. There'll be tours of the buildings. There'll be some tour guides taking you through the building. We have one or two units you can see, but get up to the higher floors, the elevator lobbies. There's some great views. Food trucks. So you should have gotten 2 tickets, one for Fresh Food Generation and one for the ice cream truck. They've arrived. They're now open. Fresh Food Generation was founded by Cassandra Campbell, who became a food justice advocate while growing up at Whittier Street and working as a teenager at the Food Project. So it's great to have her today serving up food and the ice cream truck. So welcome. Thank you all for coming.
All right, can you see everybody? That's good.